Shalom. First and foremost, above all things, I want to give all praises and honor and glory that's definitely due to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahushai Ba'Shem, Rakak Radash. Special, I'm from the Prophets in Babylon, Salaki. I'm from the Prophets in Babylon out of the Waco, Texas camp, affiliated with the branch of Prophets in Babylon, Tampa Bay, Florida. I'm your brother Atiyat. I'd like to give a special double honors to the elders and apostles on down at Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect. May the blessing of election be upon your household, on you sincere brothers and you few sisters out there that listen and take heed. And lesson for today, Eve has all the excuses but takes no accountability. And Lord willing, I hope and pray that this will be edifying. So I was inspired to do this video because I was looking at it this morning, just looking at a video short by Anton Daniels he put up, and he got this Eve on there, and she was saying, you know, you men out there, you know, y'all all happy because there's a great possibility that we won't be getting our government assistance or what have you, but you men are sorry, basically saying men are sorry because you are the same men that won't take care of your kids, you know. And you know, you got to say to yourself, well, wait a minute, these are the same women that say I don't need a man, I can do bad by myself, which that Wicked movie's about to come on here on TV. I think it's tomorrow night. I can do bad by myself. So that's you know, the spirit of these women. I can do bad by myself. I don't need a man. You know, I'm independent. You know, I'm a woman. Hear me roar. You know, all this kind of mess. You know what I'm saying? And basically, you know, behind the scenes, you know, we can talk about Eve all day long, you know, but it's this, you know, this beast Esau who runs this kingdom, who runs the earth. You know, the earth is given unto the wicked. So being that he's given unto the wicked, he has turned Eve against Jake, you know. So they made it to where it's a competition between man and woman. And the Lord didn't set things up like that. Like the scriptures say, let everything be done in decency and in order. And because of this wicked man, you know, that rules this, you know, rules over us, he has put it in Eve's mind that you don't need a man. But see, here's another thing too. A lot of times, in most cases, these women who sit here and complain about the man, it's the man that you choose to lay down with. You know, now, there are some cases where there are men who are decent jakes who want to be in their child's life, but being with you is impossible to be with you because you get bored, you want to go sleep with other men. You know, he's not exciting enough and things of that nature, but this guy goes to work every day. He goes, you know, he goes to work every day, pays bills, you know, takes care of you, but that's not enough. You know, you got to have something else, and then you decide to go be with a Pookie and Ray Ray type dude. And this is what ends up happening. A lot of these women end up laying down with multiple different men and end up with multiple baby daddies. You know, the Israelites are the only nation where our women are referred to as having baby daddies. Have you ever thought about that? You know, so this shows you that we're under the curses. You know, you have to understand we're the Israelites. We were set up to be the light of the world because what makes us stand out among all the other nations We were the chosen people of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, which means He is or He exists. And then you have the Son's name, which is Yahushai, which means He that delivers. So we're the chosen people of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. We were given laws, to follow up under. But because of sin, which means transgression of the laws, which mean also you could say going against the laws that were set for us to make us stand out among all the other nations, the Israelites, the 2/3 of the Israelites have lost their way, man. Because they have gotten so caught up in serving other false gods, basically serving Esau, Edom, Without further ado, I'm going to go into a scripture. And this scripture is brought up all the time, but it can't be brought up enough. Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Yeah. So learn not the ways of the heathen, and that's what our women have done. We're going all the way back to the Garden of Eden when Eve decided to listen to that serpent Esau, the devil, which devil means deceiver. He deceived her. And so by her being deceived, she followed along with him, and look where it's gotten you. You got multiple baby daddies. You've slept around with multiple men. This is why the scriptures say in Amos chapter 7, verse 17, let me get that. Amos chapter 7, verse 17, because you women, you sit up and you complain about what the man don't do, what the man, this and that, but then, at the end of the day, you take no responsibility for your actions, Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, thy wife shall be an harlot in the city, and thy sons, thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by line, and thou shalt die in a polluted land. This polluted land is Babylon. You go outside, to go somewhere, and you look up in the skies, and all you see is pollution sprayed in the skies, man. The food, the water, all these things are polluted, man. It don't matter how healthy you try to eat, what have you. We're constantly under. We're constantly, dealing with some kind of pollution, man. And Israel shall surely go into captivity forth of this land. And this is where we're at. We're in captivity right here in Babylon. Where at one time it was through, chains and things of that nature. But now we're working in what do you call those places? It's like I can't even think of the name of them, but basically working in when you was enslaved, you was plantations. So we was working on plantations. Now we're debt slaves. We're debt slaves to the government. Having to pay taxes. Paying for only everything that that you have, like car notes, insurance on your car. You may have a house, you're paying the house note, or if you have paid off the house note, you still have to pay insurance on the house. You have to pay taxes, you know. So basically, you know, you could pay off a house and still lose it because you hadn't paid the taxes on the house. So it just shows you that, you know, basically we're just debt slaves. I mean, at the end of the year, you know, taxes go in and you have to pay taxes on just working. For just working, you have to pay taxes for that. So this man, he's a cruel Lord, man, you know, and we see that he's that cruel. You know, this place is a place of wickedness, man, you know. But you know, it's like, yeah, getting back on the subject. Let's stay on the subject. Eve, she sits here and she talks about that. You know, men are laughing and making fun in the comments about maybe not getting your food stamps, your government subsidies, or what have you. And she's like, well, if you men was taking care of your business and helping, then we wouldn't have to do what we're doing. But hey, you know, you women holler about you don't need a man. You make it, you know, you make it impossible. Even if he's, just say for instance, the woman deals with a decent man, you know, maybe he's not in the truth, what have you, but there may be some men that have tried to do right with you, you know. Well, we say back in the day, stack fair, you know, they take care of you, they take care of the child that they had with you. That's not enough, you know. You'll complain about, oh, that's boring, you know, it's the same old, because these women, you know, it don't take much for them to get bored, you know. And so they'll leave and they'll go deal with another man, which, you know, in this society, that's what they, you know, when you're given liberty, that's what happens, man. Matter of fact, let me go to Sirach. I believe it's in, let me see, I don't want to just say it right off until I know what it is. So you have to understand, the woman's always wanting to blame everything on the man, you know, for all the things that go on, the man that she deal with. But at the end of the day, we're under the curses, you know, which shows you she doesn't have any wisdom or knowledge, understanding, you know. And then when you try to give her that, she doesn't want that. That's why a lot of these women are more, look, the kind of man they like being around is effeminate, what do you call it, the alternative man, you know, the men that want to live that alternative lifestyle and things of that nature. They like those kind of men. They don't want to deal with a real man, you know, that will speak with logic, understanding, wisdom, especially a man of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. They don't want to deal with that, you know. They're too caught up in letting their feelings rule their lifestyle, you know. Sirach chapter 25 and 24, of the woman came the beginning of sin, through her we all die. Yeah, so Eve brought sin into the world, and you know, it's been passed down to these women, you know, these Israelite women. So they're in that same spirit, man. They don't want to be ruled over. They don't want to be told what to do, you know. And so Esau has made it even more convenient for him by getting these government subsidies. But see, now it may be a great possibility that you may not start receiving these you know, these things anymore. So you think about all the bridges that you have burnt because you thought that the government was going to continue to pay for your lifestyle and, you know, continue on doing what he was, you know, what the devil was doing for you. But now he's turning his back on you. And like this Jake said the other day, that basically President Trump is giving the so-called black woman back to Jake again, you know. But see, a lot of these jakes have gotten tired, don't even want to deal with them. They just rather just, deal by themselves and keep on dealing with these women, because you can't take them seriously, man. Because these women are all about survival, and they'll do whatever they have to do to survive, man. Women are the best actors in the world, so you have to keep those things in mind. And not to say that all women are in that spirit. Not every Israelite woman is in that spirit, but a great majority of them are, in which they represent the 2/3. Most of the 2/3 consist of women, and those are the ones that are going to be destroyed, man. I'm not talking about just all of them. The 2/3 are women, but the majority of the 2/3 consist of women. You're going to be, because you got some wicked men out there as well, I'll read that again. Of the woman became the beginning of sin, and through her we all died. This beginning with Eve. Give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman liberty to gad abroad. And that's what Esau has given these women. He taught her his philosophies, and now this is what ended up happening. You have a disregard for a man. You don't want to be insubmissive of a man. You don't want to be with one man and one man only. You have a mentality of a man, so you want to sleep with multiple different men, which adds up to you to messing up your mental, because you got all those different DNAs up in you, which affects your mindset. That's why a lot of times these women go crazy, and they you wonder why they do that, why they act like that. Because they got all these different DNAs, man. And a lot of times these women want to go and be with Pookie and Ray Ray type men. These women, see, this is the part they don't tell you. A lot of times these women mess with men that are irresponsible. They come from a background where they come from a single parent household raised by the mother, so they're effeminate. They may not necessarily mean that they live an alternative lifestyle, but some of them do. But they're effeminate, and that's how they act out. So those are the kind of type of men that these women are attracted to, And so again, when it's so important to go back to the paths that we were taught back in the day, through Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But Yahweh Hashem Yahushai showed us what happens when we don't go and stay on the path that we have been taught, from our forefathers on down, through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, so we would have a better understanding of things. Because this is what happens when you don't follow the laws of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. You don't go down those old paths that we were taught. See, these women, they decide who they get to sleep with now. See, back in ancient times, I'm not going to go into them scriptures, but I'll go into one, and I'm going to close out. But back in the day, you had a woman didn't decide who she slept, who's going to be her husband. If that came with her father. Her father got with the father of the father, another father who had a son, and that father who had the daughter knew the parents' background. They knew that the son's upbringing. So if he was well-to-do, he you knew his parents. They were good parents. They raised them the right way. That's who the father would, the father who had the daughter, that's who he would, come to. Or vice versa. The father could go, the father of the son, he's looking for a wife. That father would tell him, they would get together. And so they decided who who would get together. But now in this society, the woman decides who she sleeps with and who she, who she opens her legs up for and who she don't. And a lot of times these women open their legs up to the wrong type of man. And then if she does get with a decent man, she don't want to be with him because that's too boring, That shows you that we need the kingdom, man, because this is what happens when we don't go by the laws of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. See, all this that's going on is confusion, man. This is why we need, another reason among many why we need the kingdom, so things will be done in decency and in order, man. Because this place that we live in a place that's indecent and out of order. Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 16. Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, ye shall find rest for your souls. Yeah, see, when you go back to the old paths, and you have the understanding of these old paths, you understand why you should go down these old paths, then you have that comfort for your soul, because you understand, okay, if I learn the ways of the heathen, I'm going to be miserable, I take his path, I'm going to be miserable. But if I stay in the path of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua and stay in those old paths that we were taught, then you yeah, it's good to stay in these old paths, because if I go into these wicked paths that Esau's put me on, then I'll have to deal with, all this other stuff that we're dealing with right now. Well, I ain't gonna say we, but just some men that are Israelites have to deal with. And then on top of that, you're dealing with these Israelite women. They're not going down these old paths. They learned the ways of the heathen. The 2/3 of Israel, they've learned the ways of the heathen. And we're seeing, because Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is giving us the eyesight to see what happens when you don't, stay within the old paths, the end results of it. All these things that are talking points on Facebook, going to Esau for the want of all things. These women go to the government for child support, or government subsidies such as food stamp and WIC, what have you, SNAP benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, so on and so on. They look for the government to take care of them in that way. And this is giving them that false sense of security, I'll read it again. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. That's those 2/3 of Israel who will not walk therein with it, because they love this society. They love being in this, they love captivity, because this is what we're in right now. We're in captivity. Stockholm Syndrome, that's the mindset of the 2/3 of Jake. They love this captivity. They love being in captivity, man. It's just like, you know better than Samuel L. Jackson in Django. That's what you're like. Then y'all laugh at that character, Samuel L. Jackson in Django, but basically you who followed in the paths of Esau Edom, you go out and vote and so on and so on, you go into the paths of this wicked society. That's who you are. You basically like Samuel L. Jackson, man. So Lord willing, I hope and pray that this is edifying. Once again, I want to give all praises and honor and glory that's definitely due to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua by Hashem Rakak Radash. Special double honors to the elders and apostles on down, and great millstone, peace and salutations to the elect. Until the next time, Lord willing, I'll say shalom.